To institutions of higher education, such as universities, that's not the same case, as many schools have large endowments backing them up. You've likely heard places such as Harvard have a $50 billion endowment, but that's not stopping the university from hiking tuition prices again come this fall. Other universities, however, are going a different route and are instead freezing the increases until everything gets back to normal.
Help could be on the way for students at Penn State University. In a letter posted on its website, the university's president said that he is proposing a tuition freeze to help alleviate some of the hardships caused by the coronavirus pandemic. Penn State is also looking to adjust rates for the upcoming summer 2020 semester. The Board of Trustees will vote on those proposals in July.
Joining us now is Eduardo Neret, a digital reporter for Campus Reform. So, Eduardo, we've seen over the past couple days some universities announce that they won't be increasing their tuition come next year. That's something that a lot of universities actually have not said. We just mentioned that Harvard University, for example, is hiking their tuition, even though they have a massive endowment behind them already. So what is the reasoning behind some of these universities, for example, not hiking their tuition?
Well, there are a few reasons. The first one's very simple because it helps students and their families as they face the financial impacts because of the coronavirus. But beyond that, I think there's a reason here that goes to the service of what getting a degree is. So under normal circumstances, students pay tens of thousands of dollars a year, not just to take classes in person, but to have access to some of these other resources on campus, whether it's the library, whether it's the tutoring center, and all these other services. And right now, because of the coronavirus and for the near future, they aren't going to have access to those things. So it really doesn't make sense to raise tuition on these students, which is why at the Leadership Institute's Campus Reform, we wanted to highlight some of the schools like Michigan State University, like the University of Minnesota, who have said, we understand what our community is going through right now. We want to do the opposite, and we want to freeze tuition for the upcoming future.
And it seems like a common sense approach when you lay it out that way. In fact, when you look at a lot of the things that these big universities spend their money on, I mean, yes, college textbooks are expensive. Yes, you have to pay teachers, but a lot of the money ends up going to the things you're talking about, the massive sports arenas, the libraries, the recreational centers. And if you're not utilizing those types of facilities, that's a big part of that tuition that eventually pays for those facilities. So I think it's an interesting point to bring up. But there's also a lot of students right now who are not going to the classes this spring semester. They've already been sent home. They've already been told that they won't be graduating in a lot of these cases for a lot of these students. Are they generally being given a refund, or are they expected to pay that full amount nonetheless?
They are paying a very significant amount right now. Most schools around the country have said that because if you're able to continue to take classes, if you're able to continue to receive an education online, you're going to be expected to pay tuition. Now, some schools like NYU have said, depending on what type of program you're in, you could receive a partial tuition. But the fact is that a lot of students have come to me. We've been talking to students, and they have said they're very frustrated, again, with the notion that they are paying for something that they didn't necessarily sign up for, not only for this semester, but in the upcoming future, which I think goes back to the original point of what colleges have the opportunity to do here. There's an opportunity for them to obtain not only positive press coverage, but to possibly attract more students in the future. So, there are a lot of polls right now that's showing because of the virus, there is the possibility of declining enrollment in the fall. But if a school is able to come out and say, hey, we're not going to hike tuition on you, or maybe we're going to offer you some incentives elsewhere, some high school seniors out there may be looking and saying, hey, this school cares about me, cares about my financial situation. Maybe I should attend there this fall.
I think that's a good point, and especially acknowledging the fact that a lot of these students across the country are going through very hard times, apart from not only the schooling, the upset that's come from that, but a lot of these kids also have parents who have been laid off, who can't support them the same way that maybe they have been, not to mention the students themselves. A lot of students work their way through college. They can't have these jobs on the side right now as businesses are closed, which puts a greater emphasis, in my opinion, on these universities. I have to talk about the endowments one more time because, of course, last week Harvard took a couple $1 million only to return it. But still, the idea that Harvard was taking that money with a $50 billion endowment was a little bit troubling for many Americans across the country. So why aren't these universities dipping into their endowments when it comes to things such as tuition hikes or even student loans for that matter?
Well, you raise an interesting point, and the excuse that a lot of these schools are using is they're saying, well, this endowment money is tied up to specific programs, to specific areas, and we are restricted in that spending. Now, that may be true, but my response to them is, the entire country right now, whether you're a family, whether you're a small business, whether you're a big business, all individuals across the country right now are having to take unprecedented action to get through the virus. And colleges and universities should do the same. So they should meet with their board of trustees, their board of directors, and say, is there any way we can lift the restriction on some of this spending? Because after all, what is the point of having a multi-billion-dollar endowment if you can't actually use it, if it's so tied up, and if in a moment of a crisis like right now, they can't go into it to get through it?
No, I think that's very well said. And to what you were saying before as well, it would be a good opportunity for these people not only to get an easy PR push for them, something that is undoubtedly looking good, but also to attract some other students that may otherwise not consider these schools in the future. Maybe Harvard's a different situation. Not a lot of people can necessarily get in there how it is, but that's still an opportunity for that school to reach out and give themselves some good PR in addition to just helping people out, which is something a lot of Americans across the country are doing. But Eduardo, I really appreciate you coming on tonight and breaking down this very underreported issue, from my opinion. Thank you very much.
Thanks for having me.
And still